Welcome in, everybody. What's going on? CJ Hurt here on another wonderful episode of HBCU Huddle. Joined alongside, as always, Mike Wallace. Michael. How's it going,
we
man?
We good, brother. We good. Everything is all good, man. Appreciate it. Another good week. Another HBCU Huddle. Man, we're spreading the word. We're spreading the word throughout the region, throughout the state. Hit up some more HBCU campuses, man. So, hey, listen, HBCU Huddle is coming your way pretty soon. I'm looking forward to a great rest of this football season.
Absolutely. We got a busy show, as always, for you, especially during football season. Friend of the show, Mo Carter, is going to join us, Fox 54 News Sports Director. He's actually on the call for the Jackson State Grambling game that's going to be on ESPN+, so we'll get his thoughts on that game. Also talk some Southern football with him. I do believe he's a Southern
unfortunately,
grad
he's unfortunately,
as well.
yeah.
So we'll talk to him about that. Of course, we'll give you
They just came off a beating. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We'll give you our pick. Grambling's got to start losing, man. Mike is way too chipper, way too confident right now. We'll obviously give you our pick sixes. We'll give you our game of the week for this week. We'll take a look back at last week and highlight some of the players of the week in the various the various FCS HBCU conferences, throwing the Big South OVC as well, because they've got Tennessee State. Again, Braylon Ellis is on their Offensive Player of the Week list. So we'll absolutely talk about that. Speaking of Braylon Ellis, looking back at last week, he was the MVP of the Southern Heritage Classic, which was last week. We don't want to spend too much time recapping the week that was, because by the time you're listening to this, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So last week was last week. It's game time again.
Yeah.
But felt like we could do it for the Southern Heritage Classic. It was another great Southern Heritage Classic, Mike. High scoring.
Yeah.
That was the thing that immediately stood out to me. I looked up. I don't think about midway through the second quarter, I was like, I don't think I've ever seen the Southern Heritage Classic with this many points up on the scoreboard. What were some of your takeaways from the game, Mike?
First and foremost, man, the so fortunate and so blessed that the weather broke when it did, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was 4 straight days of rain and storms in Memphis, and you had to wonder, man, was this going to be a washout again? And you and I both have been in attendance at Southern Heritage Classic. One that was, a monsoon, and then another one that was lightning strikes ended it, or never got it started. So I was just hoping, man, that the weather would cooperate enough to give people a reason to continue to tailgate and continue to get to the game, and it did. It did. So that was the first thing that stood out to me. The second thing that stood out, unfortunately, was I'm looking around, man. Tennessee State, where y'all at, man? Like, where are y'all at? I get it. It's tough. You don't want to plan ahead because of the rain and all of those kind of things. But Arkansas Pine Bluff showed up. I was a little bit underwhelmed with Tennessee State's fan support. For it to be a Tennessee home crowd, so to speak, because Tennessee State is the state's preeminent HBCU, I felt like there was a little bit of apathy building among Tennessee State folks for the most part. About that game. Those were the first two things that stood out, man. And I have a couple more, but I just wanted to start off with those two. The weather broke right, but the fan support from Tennessee State just wasn't as strong as I was hoping it would be.
And it hasn't been since Jackson State left. I feel like Jackson State's fan base, because you know what they are. You know they're coming in the droves.
Yeah.
They're coming by the tens of thousands, and it makes you, as the opposing team's fans, like, oh, I've got to show up for this, because if I don't, it'll be a JSU home game. We'll get drowned out by the Jackson State fan base. Also, the bands matter as well.
They do.
The Sonic Boom of the South is one of those. One of those premier marching bands in all of the land. But I feel like, to your point, yes, Arkansas Pine Bluff is bringing fans into the stadium, whereas Tennessee State, at one point in time, you could look around now, it's still going to be more Jackson State fans. The Southern Heritage Classic bring in about 55,000, we'll say, people in the stadium. And we'll say, well, let's lower that. Let's say 48,000. Let's say 48,000 people in the stadium. I would say 30,000, 32,000 Tennessee State. I would say 18 to 20,000 Not Tennessee
other
State,
way
other way around.
Yeah.
Tennessee State's bringing 18 to 20.
Right.
Jackson State is bringing 28 to 30,000.
Yeah. I would say 60-40 is about, 60-40.
You say, okay, well, Tennessee State's still here. Tennessee State if the trend holds true, Tennessee State will bring about 18 to 20, and it was an announced attendance of 27,000, which is still pretty impressive for FCS on FCS Showdown. But that means that Tennessee State brought closer to 12, maybe 10, and that's something that, like you, Mike, I was surprised by. I fear that, and I think the Classic is great. I'm in the stadium, right? Like I love the way that it is run. I enjoy the matchups. I enjoy the bands. I enjoy the tailgating. I enjoy all of that. I fear, though, that with the Tennessee State fans and with Memphians, it is going to, or it has devolved into the classic HBCU scenario where, hey, we'll come to the tailgate. We're not really trying to go inside the stadium, right? And how many times are there games, big games, homecomings, rivalry matchups, classics, where that is the case? Where outside the stadium is rocking. Outside the stadium, you might have 80,000 people, might have 120,000 people outside the stadium. And then inside, you look inside, and it's a couple thousand, right? Like, I don't want that to happen. And I'm not sure how I would handle it as a promoter, but I know Fred Jones is working diligently and very hard on that. And if anybody can figure it out, I do believe it's him and his team.
Well, we had him in here last week, right? And, he talked about that. He kind of, eluded the question directly about what's next, right? He just talked about
he's a master at that
and
stuff.
he is, and out of respect, and from my background, then my role would have been traditionally follow up. Okay, hey, but we get that, but who are the next two teams going to be in here? Right. He's a guest. He's a guest in our home. He's a guest on our podcast, and we want to respect
and he's somebody we want to succeed. We want this to continue to be a success year in, year out.
And maybe he doesn't have those answers just yet, and rightfully so. But the way for this thing to and look, 27 was the announced 27,000 somewhere around there. And if I'm correct, that was the lowest that it's been since '91. Which was the second year overall of the Classic. I don't believe that there were 27,000 people in the stadium. I'm thinking there's more tickets sold or distributed.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Which is fine. But even with that being said, the trend is going the opposite way in terms of people in the stadium over the last 3 years, and that has to stop. And it's not Arkansas Pine Bluff's fault. It's not Tennessee State's fault necessarily. But I do think something has to happen immediately to infuse a new level of lifeblood into the Classic on game day, on the actual game. Everything else seems to be working out fine. Yeah. Concert, I heard Patti LaBelle was phenomenal. On the other day, Tamia and Joe did their thing. The college fair and career fair was spectacular. Even the tailgate scene was pretty strong, considering all the weather.
Mike, to interject here for a minute.
Yeah.
That's the HBCU football story.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So those things were there. Now you have to galvanize the support behind the actual game. Because the game outperformed the crowd. That game was phenomenal. Yeah. And I thought it was compelling all the way through. I felt like, as great as Draylen Ellis was, and we'll get to him in a second in terms of what he accomplished, Arkansas Pine Bluff's quarterback was as dynamic as, the way he can scramble and make plays, man, is phenomenal. You just hope that they can have some success. But what has to happen now is that Fred Jones and his phenomenal team, they have to sit down and figure out, number one, what does Tennessee State want? What do they need? How can we galvanize Tennessee State's fan base to make this matter again? And then number two, what else can I look at outside of Arkansas Pine Bluff? Do I go back to Jackson State? Maybe do I take a look at trying to draw Southern in? Because you're going to have another team there that's going to bring and travel. Maybe FAMU, maybe North Carolina A&T. Maybe you put Tennessee State up against another HBCU that they haven't faced before. Maybe you bring some new blood into it. We see this happening all the time with the MEAC SWAC Challenge. They're trying to find different combinations that work. Some of them do, some of them don't. But now the onus is on the Southern Heritage Classic to stay viable.
Everything you're saying is 1,000% correct. There's only one fan base I think that is as rabid in FCS college football as Jackson State, and it's Jackson State.
And that's it, yeah. But if they're not coming to the table, what's next, though? What's your next play?
That's going to be hard to replicate and do. You got to do something. You got to find somebody. I like the Southern thought. I like the Grambling thought. I would like it to be teams nearer this region than a Florida A&M. I'm not sure how well they would travel to Memphis. And I think that I don't know. I don't have the answers, man. I pitch it to the city. Like, hey, Memphians, this is our classic. It shouldn't matter who's on the field. You guys come out, kick it at the tailgate, and then make your way in to witness these FCS HBCUs, because there's not one in the city. Just come on through. There are a bunch close. There are a bunch within 3.5, 4 hours. But there isn't one in the city. Come out here and show your support to these young men, young women, and educators by coming to the game. I'm not sure, because, listen, having Jackson State was perfect. Everybody wants Jackson State, though, because no matter where Jackson State is, they're going to travel. Think about it. Birmingham wanted Jackson State.
They did.
But why? Because Jackson State was going to travel. Jackson State fans traveled so well, Mike. We were doing this show as an audio-only podcast a while back. Jackson State had a game at Bethune-Cookman, and Bethune said, no, y'all not playing us here. Meet us in Jacksonville, baby. We need to play in this NFL stadium. We need to get that money. And Jackson State fans traveled to that. Like, that's how big a draw Jackson State is. And it's not when Jackson State is good. It's not when Coach Prime and Shador is there. No. It's Jackson State. They routinely, regularly lead the FCS in attendance.
Absolutely.
That is a fan base that is rabid, unlike any other at this level. And by this level, I'm not talking just HBCU. I'm talking all of the FCS, all of their peers.
No question.
Jackson State fans are a different breed. And so having them is what really helped the Southern Heritage Classic numbers. And it helped everybody else's numbers whenever Jackson State comes through. But I'm with you. You got to figure it out. Southern, I think, is close to that, right? Where maybe you don't get 58, maybe you don't get close to 60.
No.
But you could get 40, 45.
You can do that, right.
Grambling State is close. I think they have a solid alumni base in the Mid-South. That is another one to go out there. I think you could do some interesting things with as well. But yeah, that's where the Classic stands right now from an attendance logistics standpoint.
Let me get one last thought on that from my standpoint is this. When you think about the best Classics that we have left in HBCU, right? What are the ones that come to mind for you? The best Classics?
Bayou, Southern Heritage. I'm partial to the Magic City. And
I'm putting you on the spot.
What's the first? Is it Labor Day Classic? Labor Day is with the Texas schools, right? Texas Southern, Prairie View A&M.
They have that one, right? So those State Fair Classic with Grambling and Prairie View. Florida Classic with Bethune and FAMU, right? Florida Classic at the end of the year.
Yep.
That's another big one. And see, what does all of those have in common that the Southern Heritage Classic doesn't have?
It's conference games and it's SWAC on SWAC.
It's a conference game and it's a natural rivalry built in, right? And that is what keeps those games viable, right? Like the Magic City is Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Florida Classic, Florida A&M, FAMU, Bayou, Bethune. Southern and Grambling, right? Yeah, and Bethune. Those are the ones that year in and year out, you can almost bank on them having the attendance and the games mattering.
Even going down a division.
Even going down
like
sometimes.
Tuskegee, Morehouse, Tuskegee.
Right.
Like that's a classic that matters to the city of Columbus.
Yes.
And it matters to those two. Yes. But that is, hey, it makes sense. We are rivals and we're in the same conference.
Yeah. This one doesn't. So this one is almost operating in the Southern Heritage Classic, I'm saying, as this one is in a unique space. So you also had that traditional non-conference rivalry between Tennessee State and Jackson State. But for it to go forward, if you don't have Jackson State in your back pocket, you have to figure out something else that's going to matter and make this game, from an attendance standpoint, from an attraction standpoint, it's got everything it needs.
Yeah.
But from a game attendance standpoint, it's got somewhere to grow. And I'm hoping for the best. And whatever is needed to promote it and do what we need to do to keep it viable, we're definitely going to do from right here.
That is a rivalry game. And we've talked to Fred Jones 4 or 5 times. I've talked to him like 6 or 7 times about this classic over the years. And when asked, hey, what led to the creation? He's like, well, I stepped in and I looked around, and Jackson State was going to Tennessee State, and Tennessee State was going to Jackson State because they were rivals. They would play every year. It was like, hey, why y'all traveling so far? Just come to Memphis and hang out. And that's what did it. So it was already a natural rivalry, and then you gave them a neutral field to play on, almost like the Red River Showdown at the FBS level. What's the
Oklahoma,
Florida,
Texas?
Yep, Florida, Georgia.
The cocktail, world largest cocktail party.
That one as well, where it is two rivals. Those two
that
are
meet
in the same conference,
yeah.
but they're meeting it at a separate location to have some fun on the gridiron.
But again, conference rivals.
Yep.
As you said before. And that's the thing. Tennessee State, and when Fred Jones pulled this game together and pulled these teams together, Jackson State was still playing at their, the stadium they're playing now. Tennessee State wasn't, though. They were playing at Hale Stadium, which is, now they're playing in the NFL stadium.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about revenue that these teams can generate on their own without having to come to a neutral site.
Yeah.
At that point, the Liberty Bowl Stadium was like an NFL stadium in a sense, and the market was much bigger and more viable. But now it's a little bit more neutralized, man, and we'll see where it goes. But it's definitely some work that has to be done between now and when the next set of opponents are announced.
Mike, you brought it up on the football field. These players it was a really fun game to sit down and watch. I'm trying to think, the Chris Rowland breakout game was incredible to watch him go to work.
Yeah.
17, 18, I can't remember exactly. But that one was a really fun Southern Heritage Classic for me. Other memorable classics, the first game, and I think the only matchup between Coach Prime and Eddie George was a one that stands out. But this one, every bit lived up to the hype and the expectations. Last year's, I forgot about the block kick
at the end. It was compelling,
which was fun also. But this year, it was great. It was high scoring,
dynamic
players. And as we take a look at our players of the week, we can start in the SWAC Offensive Player of the Week. Mekhi Hagins, Arkansas Pine Bluff quarterback. He ended up passing for 276 yards and 3 touchdowns in that contest.
Yeah.
Right, like that's impressive. And this is how impressive his performance was. He lost that game, and he's SWAC Player of the Week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The SWAC Player of the Week is Mekhi Hagins. When we look at the Defensive Player of the Week for the SWAC, you got Andrew Jones out of Grambling State, Mike, which that's why you come bopping in here. 13 tackles and 2 tackles for a loss this week. When you saw, going back to Hagins, Mike, what stood out to you about him?
Just his ability to scramble and make plays, man, to keep the play alive as much as possible. Man, he made the most incredible touchdown pass I've seen in a long time when he scrambled, rolled to his left, threw up against his body, and caught a guy in the corner of the end zone from about 25 yards out. Yeah. And I said, man, that's like that's one of those Patrick Mahomes type throws. That's one of those throws that, elite NFL quarterbacks make. And for him to be able to do that, to get the foot down and the timing for the wide receiver who caught it, man, that was just, I wish we had a highlight of it, because what he did in that play, I hadn't seen something like that. I mean, McNair used to do that all the time at Alcorn State. Guys, Vic used to do that all the time with the Falcons, and that was an incredible play. So I think he's an exciting young player, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does now that they can get their conference season going. It's been rocky. They're 0-3 right now. They played 3 non-conference games. Now they get their conference season going. 0-3.
1-2.
1-2. That's right. They beat Arkansas Baptist. They beat they did Arkansas Baptist. But now they get their conference season going, and I think they're going to make some noise.
Absolutely. That throw was a no. Oh yes. type.
You know which one
play.
I'm talking about, right?
It was a good play. Over in the MEAC, Jalen Tolbert, Howard quarterback, threw for 267 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, earning himself Player of the Week in the MEAC. And they've got a big showdown, battle for the real HU this week. We'll touch on that a little bit later. On the defensive side of the ball, Noah Miles is shaping up to have a pretty good start of the year. 3 sacks and 1 pass breakup from the defensive line spot for the homie Noah Miles of Howard. So that's your Players of the Week in the MEAC. As we continue to look around the rest of the FCS HBCUs, Player of the Week in the Big South OVC for another week, 2 out of the past 3 weeks. It is Draylon Ellis, not Austin P quarterback, Tennessee State.
Used to be Austin P,
who's got an interesting game against Alabama A&M this week that I'm intrigued by. Draylon Ellis, Tennessee State quarterback, 283 total yards of offense and 3 touchdowns. What stood out to you, Mike, about what he was able to do on Saturday at the Southern Heritage Classic?
He was able to bounce back from everything. Like he was able to adjust and make plays in real time. He took what the defense gave him. He didn't try to go out and win it by himself. When it was a dump down, a check down, and let the back get out into the open field, whether it was the boundary, he just did all the things that a smart quarterback does when he's reading the game. He took what the defense gave him. He matriculated his team down the field, and he got success. I mean, and just you want to have a guy that's leading you on winning drives. And it seemed like every single drive that they made, it ended in some kind of a score. They got to the red zone almost relentlessly.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why his decision making is part of the reason why in the coaches poll, in the Box to Row coaches poll, I do believe Tennessee State is 3 right now. We'll talk about polls more in a minute. Let's take a look at the D2 schools. Now, the D2 conferences, and now over in the SEAC. Offensive Player of the Week, Kevin Durham, Fort Valley State quarterback, 283 passing yards and 4 touchdowns for Mr. Durham. And on the defensive side of the ball, Defensive Player of the Week, Caleb Grant from Morehouse, 12 tackles in their matchup against Howard. Now, CIAA fans, I didn't forget about you. CIAA does Player of the Week by position. It's like, oh, wait, y'all got it. Notice, Mike, we don't have Returner of the Week. We don't have Rookie of the Week. We don't have Newcomer. We don't have any of that. We just offensive and defensive.
Yeah.
They just do Wide Receiver of the Week, Quarterback of the Week, Defensive Tackle of the Week. It's like, all right, man.
That's a lot.
Like,
That's
listen,
a lot.
I'm working Kyra hard enough, dog. Like, I can't have her grabbing all of that. But so those are your players of the week. When you take a look at CJ's HBCU Huddle Player of the Week, or the HBCU Huddle Player of the Week, Jalen Tolbert, quarterback from Howard, 23 of 41, 267 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. He had completions to 9 different receivers in that matchup against Morehouse in the HBCU New NY Classic. Shout out to him, HBCU Huddle Player of the Week. I didn't know. Some teams don't have 9 receivers, Mike. He's completing it to 9 different players, man. That's incredible.
Well, the fact that the passing game can do this, we know Howard has an elite running game, right? So that means that the offensive line is holding up for both the pass protection and the running game, opening up holes for that tremendous group of running backs that they have, which also includes Eden James, Edgerrin James' son, the Hall of Fame running back for the Indianapolis Colts. So Howard, man, they're turning some heads right now, and they got a really, really interesting schedule coming up. And, this is a team that is really, the way that they're playing right now, I think they're headed back to repeat, getting back to the Celebration Bowl, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do and the rest of this season, because they are looking strong and legit each and every week.
Absolutely. We'll have more on the battle for the real HU a little bit later on in the show. But I can see that being the thought process. Yeah. I think there's a speed bumper coming, though.
Okay.
Arr, matey, if you catch my drift. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the other polls not other polls. Let's take a look at some of the polls around college football. Let's start with the D2 poll, where Virginia Union, they come in at number 20 in the D2 poll. So they are there. There are some teams close, just on the outside of the national D2 poll. Virginia Union's there at 20, just behind Augustana and just ahead of, who's that? Who's that there, Mike?
Man.
Bemidji State. I've never heard of Bemidji, but just ahead of Bemidji State. So that's where they are in the FCS poll.
Oh, yeah, they're 20. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, in the FCS poll, FAMU is in at the national FCS poll. They are in at number 20 over there, and there's a handful of HBCUs on the outside receiving votes category as well. We take a look at my ballot. My ballot is the same 3 in the same order. It is FAMU, North Carolina Central, and Howard. Jackson State comes in at number 4. Texas Southern comes in at number 5. Tennessee State jumps up number 6. They were behind Morgan State last week, who comes in at number 7. Hampton at 8. Alabama A&M, even though they haven't played anybody on their level. I got them at 9, and then off faith, I got Alcorn State coming in at 10.
Okay.
So we take a look go from my poll to the box to row. From my ballot
that's your ballot,
to the
right.
box to row
actual poll.
You will see that's not the box to row one. Go back to the box to row one for me, Kyra. You will see that
FAMU number one.
FAMU is 1. North Carolina
United.
Central.
I mean, not United. Unanimous number
number
1.
North Carolina Central comes in at number 2. Howard 3. Jackson State 4. Tennessee State 5. I have Alabama State completely out. With the news about Andrew Body. They'll have to work their way back in, which they can do. They can absolutely do. But Alabama State is at 6. Virginia Union is at 7. Virginia State 8. Hampton at 9. Morgan State at 10. And here's my question here. Didn't Hampton play?
That's what I'm saying. They beat Virginia Union, right? So
and Morgan State beat Virginia State.
It's one of those things where it's some odd stuff going on with the voters and the ballots, but I mean, you can only run out what the computers say, like what the the ballots and the ballots put out there. But yeah, you got to question some of the voting in that situation, because I also think, honestly, and in your ballot too, I think, man, we sleeping on Jackson State. I think Jackson State could make a case for being the second best team in the country right now, HBCU.
If you made that case, Mike, what would be the biggest thing you'd stand on?
The fact that they are deep, the fact that they have great quarterback play, the fact that they should have beat Louisiana Monroe. They had that game. And if you win that game, you're undefeated. Yeah. And you're more impressive with what you've done than even FAMU based on what they've done. So Jackson State, man, I mean, that's a team that we talked about it. And I said it, I don't know if you went all the way in and agreed with me when I said it, but I said TC Taylor, man, is on a hot seat. It's unfair to be 2 years in and you're on a hot seat because of what the expectation is, but he's delivering so far. If he can continue this, that team, man, they have some dynamic things going on down there. I'm looking for, the way you beat Southern doesn't get beat like that, just get beat up like that in the first half. And for Jackson State to be able to do that, now they got a big test because they coming home to daddy this week. And if they can get past daddy, then I gotta tip my cap to them and say, all right, they're in the driver's seat to win it.
Speaking of Southern, Jackson State, and Grambling, we got Mo Carter on the other side to break down the Jackson State-Grambling matchup. He'll be on the call for that game on ESPN+. You're listening to HBCU Huddle right here in the Built Ford Tough Studios on Grind City Media.
There's no substitute for experience, the knowledge gained from having been there before, and the passion to share what you know to make everyone around you better. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies checking from Pinnacle. Play hard. Bank easy. Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st. And you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
Sonic Radio. Welcome back to Sonic RNDIO. That spells radio with me, the CIO. This just in, the new Sonic $1.99 menu lets you build a crave-worthy meal for just $1.99 an item. Whether that's a creamy shake, crispy tots, or a quarter-pound double cheeseburger. This just out. Ostriches. They're mean, not very cute, and in my opinion, way too big for a bird. Don't miss the Sonic Fun 99 menu. 5 items, always $1.99. Live free, eat Sonic.
Tax not included. See menu for details.
Maxwell in concert. The Serenade Tour. October 16th at FedEx Forum. Maxwell. With special guest Jasmine Sullivan. And October London. Tickets on sale now at livenation.com. Don't miss Maxwell Live.
When it's all on the line, you turn to the strong, the stable, the unwavering. To those with a history of raising their performance, to meet the moment. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies checking from Pinnacle. Play hard. Bank easy. Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st. And you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
Welcome back, everybody. Whoever the producer is of this show is terrible. He's awful. Got to get rid of that guy. Who we don't have to get rid of, Mo Carter. Mo, what's going on? For those of you who don't know, Mo is a friend of the show. We love Mo. We go back and forth with Mo in the DMs once or twice a week. Mo is the Fox 54 News Sports Director. He's also going to be on the call for Jackson State and Grambling State this weekend for ESPN. Mo, how's everything going?
It's going fine, CJ and Mike. Good to see you guys again. Glad to be on with Bryan City Media. Get a chance to talk about some SWAC football. Very, very busy start to my year, but I will say this, it's all part of a balancing act that I just love to do at this point in time of the season.
Yeah, CJ didn't give you the full introduction that you're worthy of having, man. One thing that he didn't mention is that you are a proud Southern alum, football player, did your thing there. And, hey, listen, I won't hold that against you. And you got to come to the game without your Southern bias when you're calling this game with Grambling State and Jackson State.
Does Southern like any of either of these two? Like, these three seem like they hate each other. This feels like a menage a trois of hate for Mo.
It's a tough week for Mo because they just got smacked by Jackson State, and the rival at the end of the season is Grambling State. So, Mo, you in a tough spot right now, brother.
Look, I'll tell you this, it definitely does seem like it becomes a tough spot, but if somebody told me a long time ago, you have to go ahead and just put your alliances aside and worry about where that paycheck is coming from. So because of that, that's why I'll be A-OK in the spectrum. But I also will tell you this, I'm on the call with Santoria Black, who last week had to deal with his school's two biggest rivals because he's a Grambling guy. I worked for Grambling for a number of years. So, we kind of chit-chatted about that or whatever. But, nah, man, no biases here and there. I'm the type of guy, I'm going to call it how I see it. And, once the clock goes zero or whatever, then I'll worry about, who my alma mater is and was. Now, if you're talking to my wife, nah, that it just doesn't go down for that. So I throw all my allegiances to her in those situations.
So on the field in this game, this is a really intriguing matchup. Both of these teams have had pretty good starts to the year. Jackson State's running backs, Irv Mulligan and TJ Martin, both recovering from leg injuries suffered last year, both got into the game and got to log snaps for the first time this season. Did you see anything last week that piqued your interest, and do you think that Coach Taylor keeps both of these backs on a pitch count?
So we talked to Coach Taylor, and he said he wanted to remain balanced, but he also said that there was a driving force within him and his coaching staff hearing that, Southern's supposed to have a great defense. So basically, they ran the ball way more than what they wanted to actually do or whatever, and dared Southern to stop them. That would end up not being the case. They ended up running for over 250 yards, and they did it with running back by committee. And because you have fresh legs and some big guys up front, it just, served a great purpose as far as how Jackson was able to dominate Southern in the trenches.
To me, Mo, this game comes down to can Jackson State control the line of scrimmage with that running game and that balance that you just talked about, going up against Mickey Joseph's Grambling defense that has been stout, that has been, consistent, and at all three levels, they have playmakers on that defense. When you look at that battle right there in that matchup, do you agree that will dictate the outcome of this game, or do you see some other aspects that could jump out?
I totally agree with you on that one. I actually talked to Coach Mickey Joseph maybe about 2 hours ago, got all my notes and everything. Here they are right here. As far as what's going down with that. One thing I can tell you, though, he said that they have to find a way to make Jackson State one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. If they're able to find a way to make Jackson State one-dimensional, then that will definitely work out in their favor. And, of course, he was like, man, I got some dogs on my defense, too. Guys like Andrew Jones, who was, reigning defensive player of the week, had 13 tackles last week against Texas A&M Commerce. P.J. Marshall is another one. And then linebacker Brendan Bailey, who's their actual interceptions leader right now. So, those are the number of guys that have to step it up and actually make it happen for them. If they're able to do that, then that puts Miles Crawley in a better situation to run the Grambling offense against, a pretty bony Jackson State defense.
You brought up Miles Crawley. He ended up, I don't want to say get benched, because when you get benched, you don't get to come back in the game. They ended up pulling him for a couple, I think it was 2 plays last week to try and settle him down. You talked to Coach Joseph. What's the relationship like with those two right now? And do you think that Crawley, whatever the message was that needed to be sent, do you think that he received said message?
What Coach Joseph about that? Basically, he said this. He and Crawley are great, but the thing is, he does not believe in keeping a player in when they're struggling. So you need a reality check. You need to kind of reset everything. You need to recharge. So that's exactly what he did with Miles Crawley. And after that, things kept, going on the uptick for Mr. Crawley, preseason SWAC Offensive Player of the Year, which he told him, hey, I'm proud of you on that, but you got to prove it to everybody to actually make it happen. So he feels that Miles is going to be really, really good going up against Jackson State. And also, too, he said Miles and every other player on this team, they don't need that rah-rah speech because they know what's up. And this probably will be a sold-out crowd over inside of Robinson Stadium on Saturday.
Yep, we got a couple more with Mo Carter here. He's going to be on the call, the broadcast of Jackson State versus Grambling State at Grambling, which is the biggest game right now, as far as I see in terms of the early season of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Mo, but you're also based in Alabama. You do a lot in Alabama in terms of being on the broadcast there, the television news there. CJ and I both came into the season saying this was a make or break year for Alabama State and Coach Eddie Robinson Jr., but we also said you got to look at Alabama A&M as well, and this is a put up or shut up season for them too. I feel like going into week 3, we've seen the turmoil hit Alabama State because of the quarterback situation, and I'm not sure what Alabama A&M is right now after the first 2 weeks of the season. What's going on with both of those programs, and do you see the season still playing out the way that they each individually expect?
Start off with Alabama State first, especially since I have seen them in person, which is kind of crazy to say that I'm here in Huntsville, but I have not seen an Alabama A&M game yet. But that just kind of shows you how busy I actually have been. But with Alabama State, I don't think it's a put up or shut up year for Coach Eddie Robinson Jr. I expect him to probably get an extension probably at the end of the season if they aren't already working on it. Alabama State's on an upward tick. Unfortunately, Andrew Body goes down, and then Jonah O'Brien also goes down. But they have capable freshman quarterbacks who have seen their first playing time of their collegiate history these last couple of weeks. So because of that, what does Alabama State have to do? They've got to play great defense. Eddie Robinson Jr., a former NFL linebacker with the Tennessee Titans and Houston Oilers, he's going to preach, defense, 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 and then not force his quarterback to really, really have to win too many games in a sense. And of course, when we saw him against Miles, man, they just ran it down Miles' throat. And that's probably what's going to end up being the case until they can get one of those quarterbacks. Well, I say one of those quarterbacks. If O'Brien returns or whatever, then, get him back. Or if they want to keep going with the freshman, that's what they're going to have to roll with. As for Alabama A&M, it's a more interesting situation. Connell Maynard making changes over the offseason, of course, especially on the defensive side, and he was able to bring in a various amount of guys on the defensive end to really, really kind of change some things up, including Thomas Howard, who's a longtime defensive assistant under both Buddy Pugh and also under Rod Broadway at North Carolina A&T. He's got a handful of Celebration Bowl rings, and he also played at Morehouse in the early 2000s as well. Matter of fact, John David Washington was one of his teammates. So, he absolutely knows what's going to go happen and what's going to go down. As far as the Bulldogs, I think this week will be a kind of a true testament to see where they are because, of course, we saw them play Auburn, and we saw that result. Then they saw them play Kentucky State and also play an NAIA school in Georgetown College. Now you're playing Austin Peay, an FCS program, the week before you head to Tallahassee to take on Florida A&M. I think we'll get more answers as far as what the Bulldogs really, really look like. And then they got to fix some things, whatever happens this upcoming week, because this is their 3-week stretch. They've got Florida A&M, they've got Jackson State down in Mobile, and then they've got homecoming against Bethune-Cookman.
Absolutely. Back on Jackson State and Grambling, the quarterback position for Jackson State. Who are you expecting to be the starter? Cameron McCoy went out last week early in that game with a wrist injury. Jackson State brought in Jacoby Morgan, who I didn't realize this. He's played a bunch first off. Second off, especially as somebody who's supposed to be the backup. But second off, he's the third most accurate quarterback in the FCS right now. Which one of those two are you expecting to get the nod from Coach T.C. Taylor this week?
I think McCoy is going to be the guy. Yeah, he did leave with an injury. We come to find out later that actually it was something around his head, like I mentioned on the broadcast. It was a little bit more deeper than that. He actually got a cut somewhere on his forehead, so he had to get some stitches. So they felt like, okay, he could have came back in the second half, but because the game was already in Jackson State's control is why they decided to go ahead and keep him out. But you have to think about this. Jacoby Morgan is a Syracuse transfer. He's from the Jackson, Mississippi area, went to Syracuse, decided to come back home or whatever, and he's been in this role before, not being named the starter last year, but then coming on and being named the starter later on the year. So he has the ultimate next man up mentality. Me personally, I think it's going to be McCoy because, hey, the dude is probably one of the fastest players on the team, and he does have great accuracy, but also Morgan knows what it takes to, to be a solid starter. When I asked Coach Mickey Joseph about that, he was like, it's tough because both quarterbacks are great, and you have to prepare for not one, but not two. So whoever Jackson trots out there, Grambling's going to have to be prepared, in several phases because, both guys can, be dual threats. It just so happens that Morgan's probably the better passer from an efficiency standpoint, but it doesn't mean that McCoy can't sling it around like he was doing in the early portions of the game before they decided to just go with the straight-up rushing attack.
Hey, Mo, where can we find your work and also the broadcast this Saturday to check you out? And that game is going to speak for itself, but you do a phenomenal job on the broadcast as well, too, and keeping your fans and everyone involved and engaged in what you're up to.
Absolutely. On social media with Twitter, now X, whatever you want to call it, it's at Mo Carter, Fox 54. Also the same thing on my professional work page, of course, covering the Alabama HBCUs, along with other schools like University of North Alabama, and Auburn. You can also go to fox54.com and hit the sports tab to check us out. And as far as this upcoming week's game, it will be on ESPN Plus, 6 o'clock kickoff. It'll be yours truly. I'll be doing color this week along with Santoria Black. Another Grambling great, as Mike would probably go ahead and say.
Oh yeah. I go back with Santoria all the way back to, like, I was in college when he was in college. He was a student broadcaster back when I was there too. So we were there at the same time at that point. So, man, that's a great team. You and him will make a great team. I'm looking forward to a great call.
The third time we worked together, we did the Alabama State Miles game. Of course, we did the Southern versus Jackson State game all last week. And we've known each other for a number of years. So we definitely are working the chemistry well. A lot of people, hit us up in the DMs and via text messages saying, hey, great job, keep up the good work. So I definitely have relied on Santoria for some good things because I'll roll over into the play-by-play roles in the upcoming weeks for Alabama State's game against Florida A&M, and then also their game against Alcorn on ESPN Plus. So, so it's definitely going to be some good stuff. And also shout out to the SWAC for, believing in individuals like us to make sure that, we are not only telling the stories, but also telling the games from the way we know it. But as I mentioned, ESPN Plus this upcoming week, the same place you've been watching majority of these other SWAC games throughout the year. It'll be, I think a great game, a great crowd. I'm going to be leaving here pretty early so I can get over there, try to get maybe a little tailgate here and there, and then get my mind right about 4:30 to get everything going in the sense. And Mike, this may be actually crazy, but this is actually only the third time I've actually ever been to a Grambling State game. Of course, you know why? There's a big reason for most of the times, even though I play right here. But we decided to play in this other place called the Superdome. So,
yes.
But this is my third time actually going to Grambling for a football game, but first time in a number of years. So I'm definitely looking forward to it this upcoming Saturday.
There you go, man. Hey, look, we'll host you well. Regardless of your Southern ties, it's going to be Southern hospitality across the board, man. All love, and looking forward to catching up to you next time, brother.
I appreciate it, guys, and keep up the good work for sure. I always tune in each and every week. And also, I will tell y'all this. At some point in time, my wife and I were talking about this a few weeks ago. We will try to make plans to come to Memphis for Southern Heritage Classic. Like, that's one of the major classics I have still not been able to attend, mostly because of work. But if I'm able to work some things out in the upcoming years, I definitely want to make it over there and get a chance to kick it with you guys or whatever. Maybe I can get a HBCU Huddle shirt at some point in time too.
Mo, you got to get in line for that. That is Mo Carter, Fox 54 News sports director. He'll be on the Jackson State Southern Call, 6 p.m. kick on ESPN Plus. Mo, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Kyra, go with the wide shot. I want the people to see Mo get up here. Mo can sit right here in this chair. Right there. That's the seat right there, Mo. You get here. That's where you'll sit for HBCU Huddle. We got more fun Huddle stuff to get to. We got our game of the week, Mike. We got our pick sixes and more. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned right here on Grind City Media.
There's no substitute for experience, the knowledge gained from having been there before, and the passion to share what you know to make everyone around you better. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies Checking from Pinnacle. Play hard, bank easy. Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st, and you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
Sonic Radio. Welcome back to Sonic RNDIO. That spells radio with me, the CIO. This just in, the new Sonic $1.99 menu lets you build a crave-worthy meal for just $1.99 an item, whether that's a creamy shake, crispy tots, or a quarter-pound double cheeseburger. This just out. Ostriches. They're mean, not very cute, and in my opinion, way too big for a bird. Don't miss the Sonic Fun 99 menu. 5 items, always $1.99. Live free, eat Sonic.
Tax not included. See menu for details.
Maxwell in concert. The Serenade Tour. October 16th at FedEx Forum. Maxwell. With special guest Jasmine Sullivan. And October London. Tickets on sale now at livenation.com. Don't miss Maxwell Live.
When it's all on the line, you turn to the strong, the stable, the unwavering. To those with a history of raising their performance, to meet the moment. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies Checking from Pinnacle. Play hard, bank easy. Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st, and you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
Welcome back in, everybody. Thank you to Mo Carter again for joining us. We'll get to our pick sixes and our game of the week in a moment. But first, Mike, let's talk about the Fall College Tour. Parents, prospective HBCU students, prospective future HBCU students. There's a college tour going on right now in the Memphis, Tennessee area, and you absolutely want to take part in that. They're going to Southern. They're going to Arkansas Pine Bluff. Mm-hmm. They're going to Tuskegee, they're going to Grambling, they're going to University, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Like I said, Jackson State is the other one. All trips are from Memphis. Grades 9 through 12. Parents are invited to attend. College tour. You can definitely, if you're watching, take a gander at that, and you can pay for the trip or email and get in touch with the people. Email them at info@hbcuawarenessfoundation.org. Again, that email address is info@hbcuawarenessfoundation.org for more information about this college tour. It's the Fall 24 college tour is very, very important. We get these kids out here and exposed to the HBCU culture as early as possible in 9th grade. I think 10th grade is a perfect grade, but 9th grade, you can never be too early in that.
No, you can't. You can't. And shout out to Corey Allen, basically who's the director of that college tour. He does a lot of great work year in and year out with all of our HBCU initiatives here with the Grizzlies as well. So we'll have Corey Allen come in and be a guest on HBCU Huddle once that tour season kicks off in the coming weeks. But I got my eyes on that Grambling week right there. He was like, Mike, come on and join us, man. And
nice.
It'll be a chance for me to hop on that bus and share with those students about Grambling as we ride down there, catch a football game on that Saturday, and then come right back. So, it's a great cost. It's low cost. It's not, you don't have to stay overnight in a hotel or anything. Accommodations are there. You got the charter bus ride. You got meals all included, T-shirts included, sign-ups for everything from the high school days, and all of the activities that are going on that day is included in the price, man. And it's just something that's remarkable that Corey Island does every single year. And this season's fall HBCU college tour schedule is phenomenal right there. So make sure we're going to be pubbing this week in and week out, and we'll have Corey in pretty soon.
My niece did 5 or 6 of these. She was like, I don't want to do any of this college tour nonsense. She went to FAMU, was like, oh no, I need more. She did Xavier, she did Jackson State. So again, thank you to Corey Allen for all that he does. It's time for our HBCU Huddle game of the week, tale of the tape. A lot of great games this week, Mike. Battle for the real HU, the real HU. Hampton leads all-time series 56. 41-1. When we look at the tail of the tape, I don't know what Hampton's all-time record is. I went and tried to find it. Like, if I got to do all this adding and subtracting and stuff, I'm just not built to add it all up. But I do know their current record, Mike. They are 2-1. Notable Hampton alum Booker T. Washington. He is an avid walking enthusiast. For those of you who don't know, I do believe he walked 500 miles to get to Hampton, and he founded a university named Tuskegee, if you guys might not be aware. Player to watch, quarterback Chris Zealous for Hampton. Over on the other side, Howard. They had their record posted where I could find it. 523, 498, and 40. Their current record is 2-1. Notable alumni Gus Johnson. He's great at coming up with nicknames. For those of you who don't know, he's also on the Fox Big Noon Kickoff broadcast and various other broadcasts with Fox from across the college sports landscape. Player to watch, Noah Miles, defensive lineman for Howard, who right now, if I'm not mistaken, is top 10 in both sacks and tackles for loss right now in the FCS. Mike, what do you think about this matchup against the Pirates and the Bison?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is who in the hell put Gus Johnson as the notable alumni selection when we got Kamala Harris right now? That's more relevant. Like,
I forgot about her.
You could have gone Felicia Allen Rashad. You could have gone Thurgood Marshall. I
saw Gus. It's like, oh, that's my guy. I love me some Gus.
You could have gone the Black Panther. You could have gone my guy, Chadwick Boseman. Like, come on, man. Taraji P. Henson. Like, it's 28 people I would have named before I would have got the Gus Johnson.
My assumption is, Mike, Hampton will find a way to come up again here this season, and we can have one of those be the.
We'll see. You smell Howard. Yeah, Howard.
I'm sorry.
Howard Booker T. Washington is good for Hampton. You're good on that one.
Howard will come up again, Mike. The Howard still got to play South Carolina State.
They
still got to play
North
Carolina Central. They got to play Tennessee State. That is a homecoming game.
Yeah.
My assumption is at some point Howard will be back up there. And we're not going to list all of everybody's alums. It's one alum a week. And also college football season, Mike, I'm going to be honest with you. Nothing else matters to me. Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
All right.
I admire and respect everybody that you name. It's college football, man. So I'm in that frame of mind.
And that's all that matters.
Gus is one of my favorite college football personalities. I got a rule, Mike, on Saturdays. Unless it's happening in Orange Mound and it's going to be detrimental to me personally, don't text me. Don't. If you want to talk about the games, I'm all
then
for
that's good.
it.
That's good. That's
hit
good.
me up. Let's do that.
And that starts from 10:30ish all the way to.
No, it starts from 10:30ish all the way to Monday. So it starts 10:30 p.m. Friday till Monday. I don't care.
Till Monday.
I don't care. Listen, we're not this type of show. And we got to get to our pick sixes. We're not this type of a show. But assassination attempts have been happening on the weekend apparently. Holla at me on Monday.
Yeah, let me know.
Because that's happening in Florida. And right now, I'm on the grill getting ready for the Southern Heritage Classic, baby. I don't care about that. I can't give that the appropriate attention it needs, and it does deserve appropriate attention. I can't do it on a college football Saturday and NFL Sunday. No. Holla at me later.
NFL Monday, right?
I can do Monday. Monday's one game.
Okay.
One game.
Okay.
I can do that one game.
Well, not this coming week. It's two. It's going to be two. It's going to be two games on this coming Monday.
Holla at your boy on Tuesday, dog. Holla at me on Tuesday.
At any rate, we got to get to our other stuff. But listen, I think this is going to be a phenomenal game, the game of the week, the battle of the real HU, and it's because both teams have been encouraging. Hampton has been one of the surprising teams so far this season with their record at 2-1. They play well so far, and they might be able to make a surprise run in that Colonial Athletic Association at the way that they're playing right now. And Howard is the defending MEAC champ, right? And this is a team that's saying, "Look, last year wasn't a fluke. We're here for real." And they're doing it on the offensive side of the field, balanced quarterback play and running back play. It's going to be a real legit battle. It's in D.C., so I'm going to give the edge to Howard in that situation, but it really is a toss-up, man. I'm looking forward to seeing how that game plays out.
Since you're going ahead and giving your picks out, Mike, last week's Pick 6 results, you were perfect, 6-0, 15-3 overall, Mike. How about that? Take a look at mine. I was 5-1. I missed Norfolk over Hampton. I wasn't a Pirate believer, but I think this week I'll make up for it. 11-7 overall on the year, Mike. Let's start with you. What are your pick sixes this week?
Man, hold up, man. Why did mine flash so fast and then yours is just staying up there?
Well, because
that's not fair. That is not fair. There you go. Let that breathe for a little bit. Let that perfection breathe for a little bit.
I can't tell you how badly I hope Jackson State beats Grambling. I cannot. I don't like this version of Mike Wallace. I'll be honest.
All right. Give me the game. Give me the games. Give me the games, and then okay, there we go. Howard, I'm going Howard over Hampton. I just explained why I think Howard really has the offense right now that they can put points on the board. I don't know if Hampton can be able to keep up in the shootout. I'm looking forward to a great game right there. Game number 2, North Carolina Central over A&T. A&T, man, it was just a hard fall for them. This has been a difficult reset for them. They went from winning 3 HBCU national championships over a 5-year period to going through a conference change, and then, coaching change, and everything is going on there athletically with that program. They're in a bad spot right now. They're rebuilding from the bottom. We got to get Donald Ware back on, our cousin of the show, to explain what's going on with A&T and where they're going. But I got NC Central over that. Grambling over Jackson State. This is going to be a great game. If I could be anywhere else in the world on Saturday, I will be right there at R.W.E. Jones Drive heading to that game in Eddie Robinson Stadium. I'll be able to monitor it and track it. I'm going to catch the ESPN Plus broadcast. I'm looking forward to that one. Next up, Prairie View A&M over Southern. Southern, man, I hadn't seen Southern get beat down like they got beat down in that first half against Jackson State. 31-zip or something like that at the half. That was just atrocious. Prairie View A&M has a chance to really overcome a little bit of a stumble. They lost to Texas Southern in the season opener. Now they get a chance to get their feet under them. A big-time win over Southern would do that and help them along the way. Next up, give me Virginia Union over Johnson C. Smith. Virginia Union has the best running back in the country, bar none. And I think they're going to run all over Johnson C. Smith in that situation there, in that game there. And last but not least, Benedict over Edward Waters. Benedict lost to Lane. Lane went to Benedict last week and beat them. And, I talked to Coach Byron Brown after that game, and he's looking forward. He's actually, CJ, he's going to be on the show next week. We're going to have a segment with him next week as he previews the upcoming
Love-in show meetings.
Yeah, there you go, man. There you go. But I think going back, though, that's a completely different subject. Benedict, which lost to Lane, should be able to bounce back and knock off Edward Waters. But Edward Waters seems to make amazing comebacks and wins, and they did so against Tuskegee last year. So with that being said, I'm going to toss it back to CJ.
That's a Thursday night game on ESPN2. Benedict and Edward Waters is on ESPN2. Not Plus, they're on Big Boy and ESPN this week.
Yeah.
So as we be sure to watch that game, as we take a look at my pick sixes, give me Hampton over Howard. Really good on third downs. And I think that's what this game will come down to. How well can you
the chains, baby.
Move those chains? And I think Hampton is 4th in the nation right now on third down conversions behind Monmouth, Butler, and Youngstown State. I like Zealous as well. I'm interested to see what this game is. This looks like it'll be a fun one. North Carolina Central over A&T. And that fall, like you said, Mike, that was rapid. I wonder how much the pandemic played a role in throwing them off of their rhythm, and also switching conferences. Give me Jackson State over Grambling. What Grambling's been really good at, Mike, this season is turning people over and getting takeaways. They lead the nation with 10 total turnovers forced and 7 interceptions. And I don't think Jackson State is the type of team to just give you the football. So give me JSU. I was really impressed with what they did against Southern. Prairie View A&M, I'll take them over Southern as well. I'm not sure what to make of Southern. I'm pretty sure right now, 3 games in, for whatever that's worth, they have a top 10 defense statistically speaking. But like you, I can't get that 31-0 halftime score out of my head. Also, I did pick Prairie View A&M to win the SWAC West, so I need them to play like it, damn it.
There you
Give
go.
me Virginia Union over Johnson C. Smith. Johnson C. Smith, who is right now 3-0, which is impressive, which is a really, really impressive start for them. But Virginia Union is the bully in that conference. And as long as Jada Byers is on that field soon up, I will take Virginia Union over everybody else. And last but not least, on Thursday night on ESPN2, I'll take Benedict over Edward Waters. Edward Waters, while you're right, they find weird ways to win games, Mike. I don't think that's going to work for them against Benedict. So those are our pick sixes. That has been HBCU Huddle. Thank everybody for kicking it with us this week. If you're listening at the tailgate, introduce our podcast to some friends down the road from you, all right, or next door to you at the tailgate. That'll do it for this episode. For Mike, I'm CJ. Everybody take care.